Hey, it's Autumn, and this is Just a Thought. Hey, what's up? Welcome back. Today, we got another one for you. Another one. This is my dude. I know I say that in every episode, but it's because I got a fantastic circle. And this brother is no different. Amazing. We are about to get into some things that I think are going to be life shifting, not just like something for you to ponder on, but I think he's going to give us some things that we can actually take away and really implement immediately. Even if he didn't plan on it, he is now because I just put him on notice that that's the expectation. So there's that. Um, but I'm going to introduce him first so that you know and understand why he is here and all of the information that he is going to bring. So my guest today is Archie Payne. Archie Payne. Archie Payne. Don't even know if you know how much I love that name. It just got a listen. It just got a ring to it. It really does. Okay. Anyway, I digress. Archie is a finance professional with over 35 years of experience in cash management. That's what I'm talking about. Let's get this money right. And corporate accounting structures. With more than 25 years dedicated to the commercial, receivable, and payable space, he has spent the past 20 years as a commercial card. These credit cards. Is it these credit cards? Because we're trying to get rid of these credit cards. Okay. And procure to pay specialist. He said, no, don't do it. Okay. Well, we're going to talk about it. You're going to help us. You're going to help us. Archie provides advisory and relationship expertise to help clients achieve their accounts payable, receivable, and travel management objectives. That's what I'm trying to talk about. He is passionate about promoting financial literacy and awareness in underrepresented communities, driven by his understanding of the intersection between commerce and purpose. Now that's the bio he sent over. I want to add a little something to that bio
Okay.
because listen, my dude is also. I brought my cup out for him because this is the first time I felt safe enough to do it. He's a Cowboys fan, so you know he can be trusted. And my dude just crossed as Omega Sci-Fi. Now y'all know I'm with the nukes, but I support my brother here. I support my brother. Archie, welcome. Thank you for being on the show with me today. I appreciate you in advance for everything that you're about to give insight to. I think that this is a really important conversation. If y'all haven't figured it out yet, we can already talk about money. We can already talk about some mind shifts around this money because we all need it. We all got it, don't got it, trying to get it, trying to manage it, trying to figure it out. And Archie has, to his bio, has been in this space for a really long time. And I think that he is the perfect person to come and just help think about these things in a different way. So, Archie, thank you. Thank you for making yourself available to me, sir.
No, thank you for having me. And listen, that welcome right there is enough. I'm ready to just stop while I'm ahead and go ahead and cancel and
Stop it.
come back for Christmas. but but let's talk about the topic, right? Because money's important, right?
Money is important.
It's not everything, but it provides us the opportunity to, take care of our family and do the things that we want to do and the things that we have to do, right? So like
Yeah.
it's important. It's an important
Right.
aspect.
It is a huge aspect of life. It doesn't solve everything, but it solves a lot of things. And I think that it also causes a lot of problems, right? In
It
so
can.
many, yeah, it can in so many different spaces. So I think it's really important to understand it and to be able to manage it and not necessarily have it managing you. So um, that's what we're here to talk about.
Yeah.
So to get into it,
Let's do it.
I think everything begins in childhood, and that's where a lot of our mindsets come from.
That's
And
right.
so, in your opinion or in your experience, what are some of those childhood mindsets, examples, things like that, experiences with maybe scarcity or um, abundance that can influence how people manage their money when they become adults?
Yeah. So great question. Let's begin at the very first starting point, right? So
Uh-huh.
like people can only give to you that with which they possess, right? So like
That's
I
fair.
someone can only give you good financial awareness, financial literacy skills if they possess those skills.
Right,
So if they
right,
don't possess the skills, they can't give you the skills that you'll need to be good at it in your adult life. Um,
right,
and unfortunately, many individuals come from families that don't necessarily possess those skills.
right.
So it perpetuates. We talked. You spoke of scarcity, right? So
Yeah,
scarcity begets scarcity because it kind of perpetuates itself
right.
along the horizon. And so one of the things that like when I was growing up, my dad used to always say, "Pay yourself first." And I used to scratch my head and be like, listen,
What does
man,
that mean?
I have things I want to do, right? like um, and so I didn't do that as a young Archie.
Right, right.
I do that now as an adult Archie because some of the messages that we receive over time
Start to
are
make sense.
lost a little bit too, right? So
Yeah,
like, so you spoke of scarcity. Oftentimes, what happens is people who come from scarce situations, they hold on to a lot
yeah.
of things
They
and
hoard.
they hoard, which necessarily doesn't open them up for investing and
Yeah,
doing things with the money and putting the money to work for them. Because
right.
I didn't have, so I'm going to put my money in a savings account and lock it up and keep it there
Yeah,
and, earn a fraction of a percent versus putting some of that money to work so they could be earning, incremental interest
right,
or some other compounded um, benefit that, could come to you. Right. So like, we all are subject to the experiences that we've had in life, right? And so we
absolutely.
at some point need to kind of shed those thoughts and think of where we are and where we want to go.
Yeah.
um
Now, I feel like, to your point there, it's like almost like you can see two extremes. You see the people who hoard and are like, nope, I'm not spending a dime. We ain't going nowhere and doing nothing. I'm just putting everything in the bank.
yep.
And then you see other people who get a little money and
Spend it.
flash out.
Yep, spend it. It's
I
spent
mean,
before they get it. I get
they
paid
ain't
Friday,
never
so I'm gonna
had
spend it
nothing,
on
and
Wednesday.
now
Yes. Yeah,
right,
yeah, 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 yeah.
they got a little something and just can't. It's burning a hole in their pocket.
Yep, yep, yep. um one of the best pieces of advice that I have for people is that where you can open multiple bank accounts. And so why I say that is like,
Okay.
so I personally have two checking accounts and one savings account.
Wait a minute. Listen, I'm going to start taking some notes. Go ahead.
And so I have a main checking account that I pay my bills through, and I also have a checking account that like I put money into for like big expenses, like whatever it is that I want, right? If I want to go on a trip, I want
Right.
to, go to a Cowboys game, whatever,
Right.
whatever I want to do, I put money from my paycheck in that account, and I use that account for planned expenditures,
Okay.
and even sometimes unplanned expenditures, right?
Right.
So like, you know, dryer goes bad, and I need to go
Right.
out and buy another dryer, right? So that's not a planned
Right.
expense; that's an unplanned expense, but it's a necessary item that I have to have in my house to, keep the household going, right? So,
Right. Right.
um, the first account, all my bills come out of that account, and
Okay.
then my second account is an account that I oftentimes forget about until I start to make plans for things that I want to do or purchases I want to make. And then
Now let me ask you something because you're saying that I just want to because listen, when I tell you I'm taking notes, I'm going to take notes. So
yeah.
the second account, not the one for your bills, but the other account is how are you deciding how much money goes into that? Is that like a percentage? Is that a set dollar amount? Like how are you deciding that?
So the way that my account structures work for me, and I employ everyone to do what works for them. So I have a set dollar amount from every pay that goes into
Okay.
my second checking account.
Mhm.
There's a percentage of my pay that goes into my savings account. So it's like 10%
Okay.
of my pay goes into my savings account. Um,
Uh-huh.
and as my paycheck has ebbs and flows for whatever reasons, the savings account will have ebbs and flows. So that's the reason for the percentage there. And then the balance, 100% of the balance that's remaining after the percentage and then the set dollar amount come out goes into my checking account. And it's more than enough to cover all my expenses. And I have the ability, the flexibility to move money through the other accounts if I want to, but I set it up that way because I totally forget about the savings account. Like
Yeah.
That's money there in case like the sky falls and I really
Right.
need to do
Right.
something. And then the second account is where I kind of set my expectations for like vacations, what I want to do, where I want to go, how I want to plan my year. And then I will adjust my set dollar amount as well if I need to support. Like let's say that I want to take 4 trips this year instead of 3.
Right.
So at some point I make that decision. I'll adjust the amount that goes into that account, so that I can draw from that account to support whatever it is that I want to plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's good. That's good. So is the reason for the split there so that you're never I mean, because whether it's the intention or not, the added benefit is that you're not overdrawing from the account where your bills are coming from, right? So that, I mean,
no,
that seems like an automatic.
no, no. So
Okay.
so for me, it's
Mhm.
like set it and forget it, right? So
Right.
like I have the money for my bills. That's my primary account. I use that account for everything, right? I pay
Mhm.
all my bills. Well, let me take a step back. You stated credit cards. I
Yeah.
use credit cards to pay for everything. 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 I I I fuel my vehicle from my credit card. I pay the household light bill, all my household expenses. I pay for my credit card, and then I use my checking account to pay my credit card statement every month.
Okay. So we bring in our credit card statement to zero every month. That's
Every month,
the key.
I bring it.
See, look, that's the key. We're not carrying balances. Okay. So are you doing that for the points, the rewards, the things that come from the credit card, or why are you doing that?
Yeah, so a multitude of reasons.
Okay.
Those are good, like so points, rewards.
Right.
It's an actually an airline backed card. I
Mm.
won't state the name of the airline, but it is an airline backed card. So for every dollar, I think I get like 2 miles, or there's
Okay.
some sort of calculation where I actually earn points for
Right.
future trips. Um,
Okay.
and so I do it for those reasons, and then the other reason is because of fraud, right? Because I don't, so it doesn't impact my checking account if something were to happen to the account that I use.
Mm.
So it gives me a layer of protection that, like,
Okay.
something happens, that something goes bump in the night,
Right.
I'm not stuck with my checking account locked or frozen because
Right.
they
Right.
have to figure out what's going on.
Okay. Listen, we, so we are 10 minutes in. You out here saving lives.
Well, let's
You
save
out
some
here
more.
You saving lives already. No, that is good. I'm not gonna lie, I have heard of people, that do use their credit card for everything, but they've only ever talked about, this layer of protection. I never heard that before.
Uh,
They just talked about the fact that, yeah, oh man, I get a credit card that has incredible kickbacks, and that gives me an opportunity to make my credit card work for me, and that's fantastic.
right.
I think so that's good. That's good. But also, I think that has to come with a certain level of discipline,
Yeah. Yes.
and
So it goes back to like purchase scrutiny, right? So like
yeah,
I'm only using the card on a monthly basis to cover expenses that are known in part of my budget,
right,
right?
okay,
For that purpose.
right,
Anything that I'm buying that sits outside of my regular monthly expenditures, um, I use a card. I still use a card, but I pay that card from my second account,
right,
not my primary account.
okay, okay. This
Because
is
there's a level of discipline where like the money is the money is allocated for different things for me.
mhm.
Draw down from those allocations appropriately. Yep.
So I think that this is a good. So just to really quick, because
Yeah.
that was good. I want to. I say close the loop a little bit. I want to close the loop a little bit on the initial sort of opening question about the things that we can learn from that. What I also kind of heard you saying, whether intentionally or unintentionally, is like forgiveness and grace, right? People can only give you what they have, and if they didn't give it to you,
That's it.
you just give them grace. They didn't know, and you're right, because I'm gonna tell you right now, my parents never talked to me about money, and so I have legit learned about money by trial and error.
Mhm. As
Trial
most
and
as
error.
most Americans have. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, right, right. And so to that point, some of my error has been real error. Like I can say I've had, my credit score has been I don't know how low you can go, but it was pretty dang on low. I'm not sure what the lowest is. But then I've also had a credit score, my credit score in the 800s.
Yeah.
But that came over discipline and time and
Correct.
figuring out and all the things, right? So, one, encouragement to everybody out there whose credit score
100%.
ain't great. It's possible to turn that around. That's the first thing.
There's nothing special about anybody who has made that journey. They'll tell you it is a journey, and you just have to take one step at a time, and
One
you'll
step at a
you'll
time.
arrive. Right? There's nothing
Yeah,
special about either ends of those spectrum. Right? Like
you'll get there.
yeah,
You'll
exactly.
get there. Um, but what are some ways, or is there really, like, what does that look like to adjust um how you see or feel about money? Is it just education about it? Is it you yourselves? Things that, I mean, like, where does that, people who are coming to you and like, Archie, I want to try to get this right. Where do you start with them?
Yeah. Well, so there's no right or wrong,
Okay.
right? So there's no right or wrong. Your journey may be different. Your journey's gonna likely be different from
Right.
everyone else's journey, right?
Right.
Um, the only thing that's consistent is that there's a realization point and an inflection point where it's like, listen, I'm here and I aspire to be here, wherever here is, right?
Right. Right.
Like you said, there's low and then there's high, and
Everything in
somewhere
between.
in between is where most people live, right?
Yeah.
Um, and you have to just be honest with yourself in terms of what it will take for you to be happy and healthy along that journey, right? Like
Mm.
for me, like I could do away with like um buying coffee every day, right?
Right.
I'm happy to have in-house coffee that I can make from my
Right.
Keurig every morning. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
There's some people that can't live without their coffee. Like there's a level of mental health
Yeah.
that can be wrapped around some of
Right.
these purchases, right? And so, none of it's worth that. And you have to give yourself grace too. So
Okay.
just be honest, right? Like write everything that you're spending money on down and figure out where you can cut back or where you can do without, right?
Yeah.
Certain things, right? And
Yeah.
you know, $9 a day doesn't sound like a lot, but $9 a day
It
is
adds up.
it's like what's that, like $270 a month,
Well, when you put it
right?
like that, Archie,
I
when you
mean,
put it like that, what
but
can I do with an extra $270?
well, but if it
I can
if
pay
it
a bill.
helps you if it helps you with your mental capacity, then maybe that's not what you want to
Yeah,
do
yeah,
away with, right? But maybe it's lunch 2 or 3 days a week. Like I don't know, right? But like
right,
the best thing I think as a starting point is to write down where you're spending your money.
yeah.
Right? Where's all your money going?
Well, I'm gonna tell you this, and I talked about this in a previous episode with another guest, that I was honest about, like, my journey with money. And one of the things that I talked about is that I was an emotional spender. So I think that people need to also understand, which I think is what you're getting to, right? If this is something that you are like tied to, and it's this is what makes me feel good and all the things. Um,
Okay.
but I was an emotional spender to a point where it was unhealthy. And which I had to really deal with that I realized that every time I was sad, or every time I didn't feel, my best self, that I would spend to try to make myself feel better.
Yeah, you're not
And
alone.
yeah. But that was one of the first things that I had to address so that I could get my finances in control.
And that's why multiple accounts help, right?
Yeah.
So like, for example, emotional expenditure, right? Don't use a credit card like
Right.
off the top. I mean, you can use a credit card, but
You
like
tell me that now,
don't.
Archie.
But then, well, hindsight is 2020, right?
Actually,
But
hindsight is $20,000, but we ain't gonna talk about that.
well, then there's that. Um, but but find joy in planning for the purchase,
That's good.
right? Like
Okay.
so, like
Yeah.
you're not telling yourself you have to do without, right? But
Yeah.
I'll buy it in a week. I'll buy it in
Right.
2 weeks, and
Right.
that's where the
Something to look
second
forward
account
to.
comes in handy because now you can see the progression to the purchase.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good. Reframing that it's not a denial. It's just a pause for a second.
Pause.
Yeah. Yeah. Giving yourself something that you can work towards and feel good about. You earned it. You
That's
earned it.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
who knows? You might find yourself. Well, one or two things are going to happen, right? Either you're going to find yourself even more elated with the purchase. You now have the item, and it's like I waited a couple weeks, so I really wanted it.
Right.
Or in 2 weeks' time, you may say, I don't want that. I want something else.
Right? And that happens so often. I cannot tell you, which is another see, and that's really good too, because that was
Yeah.
another thing that I started doing when these emotional put all this stuff in my basket, and then I go, you know what, sleep on it. If tomorrow I still want it, then cool. If I
Yep.
don't, move on. And a
Right.
lot of times I did. I found the
Right.
next day, I don't even want half this stuff anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. So there you go.
There you
Right.
go.
So
Yeah. That's
I don't think
good.
there's anything wrong with that. Like
Yeah.
we all work hard,
Right.
and that's the part of the equation that like people lose. Like they're like, I have to sink everything into an investment, or I have to sink everything into say. No, like you go to work so that you can have
Yeah.
a happier life. Like
Right.
a certain lifestyle is part of that.
Yeah.
And so, you just got to be strategic and thoughtful in how
What
you're
that looks
going to
like.
use your resources.
What that
Um,
looks So to that point, I want to ask you this because again, this is wild. Some people are gonna be like, "What? I use my credit card for everything." Wait a minute now.
right,
Okay, like they feel like they got a new lease on life. Y'all keep it in context. Stop it. Listen to everything he's saying.
yeah,
Don't hear what you
for
just
sure.
want to hear.
For
Hear
sure.
all the
Don't get in trouble. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I
don't,
pay it off to zero every month.
exactly every month
Every month.
zero.
Every
Okay.
month.
Um, so to that point, what is your thought process surrounding and like I told you, I went to a financial university class. And in that class, the dude was like zero debt. You want to be to a place where you cut up every credit card, that you paying for everything with cash, and that that is the ultimate goal. Is that the ultimate goal?
So it, it it it's all about leverage. So think about it like this: unless you're with $300,000, $400,000, like you have to have a mortgage to buy a house,
Right.
and in
Uh-huh.
order to receive a preferred rate, you have to have some sort of trade line that promotes good credit stability.
Right.
So if you don't have credit cards, um, I'm okay with no debt, but I'm not okay with like pay cash or write a check for everything because that doesn't support your trade line.
Okay.
So you need to
Yeah.
have a good trade line history so
Yeah.
that you can have a good credit rating so that when you are in need of bank financing,
Right.
you receive a preferred rate,
That you can do that. Okay.
right?
So it's not necessarily we agree zero debt, but we don't agree on no credit cards. Now, what is the sweet spot? I've met some people who have like not I'm like, How do you have this many I mean, they got a credit card for every bank, every store, every like I'm like, "What?" And then I have some people were like, "I got one, and that's it." Is there a sweet spot to that? Does it matter?
It really doesn't. It depends on like so it's credit limit. So
Yeah.
like if you have the one card that has enough credit facility for you to do all the things you need to do and it still has a residual amount for incidentals, then you only need one,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
If you're not disciplined in order to make the purchases, then you may want to have a couple that have lower limits so that
Yeah.
like you can kind of manage to make certain that you stay within a safe zone
Mm.
from like not overextending
Okay.
yourself.
Okay. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Pause right there for a second. Can you tell the credit card? Because I'm gonna tell you right now, these people be telling me all the time, "Oh, amazing! We're bumping you today." Can you be like,
You could,
"Nah, I'm
yeah,
cool."
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, you can tell them. You don't. I don't. So
That
you
sounded
can
real ignorant for me to
decline.
say that. I had no idea.
You can decline an increase. Yes. So they pick up.
Okay.
They are reaching out to you. You know, you have excellent credit rating. We want to bump your credit up to 30,000. No, I'm
Right.
okay. I, I'll retain my.
Okay.
I'm okay.
Now you tell me.
Yeah. Well, you didn't ask. Closed mouth never gets fed, right?
Listen, if I wish I would have known, I'd have been like, "Nah, nah, just keep me
But
right here. I don't need you to take
But
me
the
there."
key is honesty, right? Like you have to
Yeah.
be honest with yourself, right?
Right.
So if you're not the type that can have self control and not,
Yeah.
then you should decline. Like
Credit
you should
because
decline
credit
the
cards
increase.
feel like free money. They not. They
There's
not.
no free lunches in life.
Fat. Say that part again. Say that part
Yeah,
again.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my
So
God. Um, that's good. That's good. Um, so now that we in this mindset about debt, right? I think that there's a lot of people who have a lot of shame surrounding debt. There's a lot of people who are are barely hanging on, and quite honestly, even some people that are making a considerable amount of money
oh yeah.
have right. And so it feels like from the outside, this image of I should be this, but meanwhile they are drowning, they
Yeah.
are way overwhelmed, and there's shame. So to your point, you said, oh, you should have asked. A lot of people, I think, are like ashamed to ask or talk about it, say like, yo, I owe all this. So how do people separate themselves from the debt, like not having shame surrounding it, so that they can seek help, so that they can get guidance? Like, I mean, not to sound terrible, but I feel like the majority of the United States is in debt. Maybe that might
I
make
would
you feel
agree.
better.
Yeah, no, no. I think, yeah. I
You're
think,
not alone, basically. You're not alone. Like, you're not the only one.
yeah.
Um,
So and so like always think of it like this, right? Strength in numbers, right? So
yeah,
like there's a common place for the majority of people, and I do believe that more people are facing either they're in or they're approaching a debt challenge,
yeah,
um, more than not, right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
I don't know what the exact statistics are, but like I think more Americans are one catastrophe or one event away from like homelessness and
yeah,
like
yeah.
severe debt,
Right,
um, which is like it's avoidable. So like
right.
um, I you just gotta kind of get over it and ask like
Bite the bullet and ask.
yeah,
Well, and that's the thing. It's no to your that point, a lot of people, good people.
good
Doesn't mean
people.
that you're yeah, good
Well,
people, everybody is
it's no like debt is no barometer of good or bad, right?
right,
Just like debt is no respecter of wealth. So
right,
there are some people that on the surface you would assume to be wealthy and like well to do,
right,
and they're over leveraged like probably well beyond some other individuals who are not so well off
right,
or
right.
finance.
Managing right, managing their money way better. It was
Yeah.
interesting. I think it was like a some last year, maybe the year before. uh, I was in Cleveland with some friends, and one of them brought a friend of theirs who was a judge. She's a bankruptcy judge out to lunch with us, and I was like, man. And she presented bankruptcy. Now, this is not me advocating for bankruptcy. Just
That's
let me
fine.
just be clear. But she presented bankruptcy and said, actually, um, bankruptcy is a blessing, and or the option of bankruptcy is a blessing for a lot of people. And she said, I wish that we had a different mindset surrounding bankruptcy than we do. Because if it's the difference between you living your life stressed out, overwhelmed, anxious, anxiety, can't move, can't do anything because you have so much debt, or filing for bankruptcy where there is relief. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I can breathe, I can hit the reset button, I can start over, I can make better decisions, and I can rebuild in a way that allows me, you know what I mean? Like space. That's a blessing. And I was like, man, and she was like, and there's no shame about it. And I went, God, that is a I've never heard anybody talk about it that way, right? Whenever we talk about breaking, we always talk about it like, this is terrible. It's gonna ruin your life. You're never gonna be able to do anything. People are gonna it's a scarlet letter.
Yeah.
I don't know, what are your thoughts?
So in certain classes, in certain groups of people, that is the reaction. Or
Mm,
like that's the reality that they live, right? Don't want to file bankruptcy because you'll be frowned upon or
right.
um other classes of
I mean, I
people
think our president may have filed for bankruptcy.
a few times. Yeah. And so it's a leverage, it's a financial leverage tool that can be used or applied in certain settings. Um to do exactly what you just said, right? Like to
Yeah.
give the person who has entered into a certain area of financial stability an opportunity to hit a reset button
Yeah.
and recalibrate all of these expenses that
Yeah.
they've acquired. The challenging part is that in certain settings, many of the individuals that are pushing the recalibrate button have funds, and so they don't necessarily have a period of inflection. Like they just hit the reset button and then they just pay cash for things for a little bit of time, and then their credit is repaired and like they're back, which is
Yeah.
probably part of the reason why, like in certain settings, it's a taboo statement to talk about bankruptcy in
Yeah.
that capacity,
Yeah.
because it's like they're not holding the cash to make the regular purchases that they need to kind of fill the gap between I hit the pause button
Yeah.
to reset and now it's recalibrated and now I'm back
Yeah.
in good standings. It can be a bit of a challenge, but at
Yeah.
the end of the day, like the thing that the bankruptcy what you said, bankruptcy judge,
Yeah. Hmm.
what she shared is like, listen, there's an element of mental health that comes
Yeah.
with financial awareness, stability, and,
Freedom.
and all of those,
Yeah.
whatever titles you want to put behind it. And I didn't really fully understand how close there was a correlation between like mental stability and like, financial awareness, um, until I kind of got into a certain space and was like, I think 2008 was like epiphany for me. Like that was an eye-opening year when 2008, when the financial crisis of the United States
Oh
happened.
God. Yeah.
And you had many major corporations that were up in arms because they didn't know what tomorrow was going to bring
Yeah.
for them, right?
Right.
So
Right.
it forced me to like, look at things a bit differently. And so I'm okay. Well, if corporates are doing this,
Yeah.
why aren't we employing some of this as individuals?
Right.
And
Right.
so the
What do
whole
they know that we don't know?
there you go, right? And so like the whole use your credit card for everything was born out of that moment for me.
Okay.
It's like a working capital strategy. I'm going to use the tools that I have to manage the expenses that I have to make
Yeah.
in a way that it's going to maximize the benefit package to me. So we
Absolutely.
talked about the points, we talked about the awards, we talked about like fraud protections,
Yeah.
and all those, like all that comes together with like why I want to use credit cards to make all
Right.
my regular monthly purchases.
So if I'm a person who's in debt and I want to I'm starting today. I'm like, you know what? I'm sick of this. I'm done with it. What's Let's say the first three, because I'm sure there's a lot of steps. Let's say the first three steps. What are the first three steps that I should make, or the first three things that I should do to help start me on that path and to help me feel empowered to take this challenge on?
Okay.
Okay.
Man, you asking some tough questions on a Monday. So the
Listen,
very
we
first.
need to know, sir, that we out here with bated breath. There's people who are sitting on the edge of their seat right now, like that part. I need to know that part.
All right, we'll wait no longer, right? So the
Okay.
very first step is knowing where your money is going.
Okay.
So take an inventory, write down everything and every penny that you spend and where you're spending it.
Okay.
Um, and then the very next foot that should drop, or so maybe step two is what are the things that I'm buying or the expenditures that I have that I can do without?
Okay. Okay.
Um, and then the third is probably okay. So I'm just throwing out numbers.
Yeah.
I found another $270 because I used that number because we talked about it earlier
Right.
in the
Right.
episode, but I found an extra $270. How can I apply that 270 on a monthly basis to chip away at this? And so start with, the highest interest bearing whatever, or, either highest interest bearing. And then the other one is like lowest balance. So you can just get it paid off
Yeah.
fast. So you
Yeah.
can visually see the benefits, because then it sparks more enthusiasm to
Yeah.
kind of do more,
Yeah.
right? So
Okay.
first, figure out where you're spending your money. Two, figure out what you can reduce, what expenditures you can reduce or do away with.
Uh-huh.
And then three, once you've determined what the amount is, how do I apply that amount to the balances that I have, either highest interest rate
Hmm.
or smallest balance, so that like I can start to see the benefits faster.
Okay. Okay. Now here's my next question. This is going to be a little bit of math, maybe.
Okay.
Let's say I'm paying the minimum balance on my credit card every month. I know that's what I'm saying. We getting ready to get some math. Okay.
That's fine.
So let's say the minimum balance on my credit card is $500. Let's just say. Look, I
Okay.
know I saw your eyebrows. You went, "Ooh, that's a minimum balance." Okay. I'm just
That's a high.
I
So
don't know. Let me just
okay.
okay, it's $500. All
Okay.
right. That's if I do the $500 a month, it's gonna take me 9,000 years to pay that credit card off. Okay. So how much should I or what percentage or like I don't know how to do that, right? Where I can reasonably start to see because it's like you pay the minimum balance and then as soon as the interest comes the next month it's your minimum balance is right like it's like you did nothing and then you didn't
Yeah,
right so where can I start to see is it that I got to tack on at least another $100 and I got to tack on at least another 250 like do you see what I'm saying where I can actually start to see that decline.
I do. And so what I'll tell you is this, it depends. Like so the exact dollar amount depends, right? Because most minimum balances are only covering
The interest.
interest,
That's
right?
good.
So,
Okay.
so like there's a fraction of the payment that has to go towards the principal, right?
Right.
Which is
Right.
the overall balance that you owe. But
Right.
but if you're only paying the minimum balance, generally speaking, like 90-95% of that payment is interest. So
Man,
you're not doing
these
anything to
are
chip
things
away
we
at the
don't
back.
know.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So
Okay.
so I mean, so so you understand how the answer is it depends, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
$100 may be good, but not if your minimum balance is 500. That means that you have a high APR.
Yeah.
So $100 is probably not making a dent that you would
Mm.
imagine it would make, right?
Right. Right.
So what I would say is that like there are calculators that will help you like determine like what's the horizon. Like if I want to pay this credit card off in 10 years,
Right.
there are calculators. I think bankrate.com is one that has a bunch
Okay.
of different calculators there where you can like say, okay, this is my balance, this is what my APR is, and I want to have this card paid off in 7 years. How
Right.
much do I have to pay every month to do this?
That's
And
good. Good.
it'll give you like what they call an amortization chart, which
Yeah.
says if you pay, throwing out numbers, $1,000 a month,
Right.
you will be able to pay this full balance off in 7 years,
Okay.
right? So it'll help
Okay.
you with the math because the
That's
math
good.
isn't necessarily easy, right?
And I think that that's really important. So I'm glad that you threw that out there because people are just taking wild stabs at it. They just
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean? I don't know. Let me put an extra $50 on it, and it's almost like you're throwing money away because you know what I mean. It's not going anywhere. So what is the
yeah,
best way to tackle that? I almost now I could be totally wrong, and I know you're going to tell me. I almost be feeling like it's worth like unless you can do a bigger payment. Like let me do like 3,000 on it or let me do like and I'm not saying that that's the answer, but it almost like to get you to where now it is starting to make bigger dents on it. It just feels like
yeah.
you know what, you're making $500 payments every month and you just throwing that $500 away. It's not going
Yeah.
in.
I would say I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
As much as you can apply that's above the minimum payment requirement,
Yeah.
make it because it all whatever it is going towards the principal,
Yeah.
right? But what I would say is this: understand like what the game plan is and be honest with yourself is probably more important than like making as much of a payment as you can make, right?
Yeah.
Because it's the whole mental aspect, right? So if I know I have a plan and that plan is 7 years and I can see the progression over those 7 years, then the mental aspect of paying it down is rewarding in and of itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, versus just like lobbing money over the fence and you
Hoping
know,
for the best.
right. And it's like, oh, I'm no better than if I hadn't made any addition. Like so
Yeah.
it you know, I, I think people really need to, one, be honest with themselves and focus on what will it take for you to be mentally in a good mental space, a good
Yeah.
headspace as you're going along this journey, right? Because you don't want to get halfway to the finish line and then quit.
Yeah.
You want to see it all the way through. And I think if you go in saying, okay, it's a 7 year journey, it's going to take me 7 years, it's going to be this amount, I'll make this payment. If I have anything left over, I'll apply it. But it also helps you with what money will I have
Yeah.
on hand
Yeah.
over the 7 year period, right? Because you still have to live.
Yeah.
Like that's the bit. Like this journey is a necessary journey to help you live better on the other side of the journey. But it doesn't do you any good to suffer
All
as
the
part of the
7 years.
journey. Because
Lord.
when you get there, right, you got more scars that you're trying to, going back to what we talked about earlier around like emotional expenditure. Like,
Right.
oh, I'm here now, so I'm gonna go out and buy a new car. Oh,
Right.
shucks, you just set yourself back
Yeah.
a
All
number
over
of years
again.
because you didn't factor in the mental aspect of the journey, and make certain that your mental health was a consideration along, right? Like I
That's really
think we
good. That's really good.
oftentimes jump in this thing, we don't necessarily have a plan, and we
Mhm.
don't give ourselves the honest tea, right? Like we just, I want to get rid of credit and I want to do this and I want to do that. And the reality of it is like, for me, credit cards are a necessary evil.
Yeah.
If you want to look
Yeah.
at them as evil, like they're not evil at all, but they're, I, so think of like a quiver with arrows in it and I'm a bow and arrow, right?
Right.
It's an arrow in my quiver that I can call on that I can do what I need to do to manage my household.
Yeah, that's good.
So from that point of view or perspective, like there's nothing evil about any of it.
Right.
It's how you use it. So, when they say money and people misquote it, the scriptures, the love of money, not
Right.
money.
Yes.
It's the love
The
of
love
money.
of money. Yes.
Money is not evil in and of itself.
Right.
It is a necessary
Money
utility,
in and of itself could be answers to prayers.
100%, right?
Listen.
100%.
Yeah.
It takes money to buy buildings. It
Right.
takes money to feed the homeless. So like money's not bad as long as it's used as a utility.
Right.
So, any payment model
Yeah.
isn't in and of itself better than any other. It's how you manage the payment
Yeah.
model to facilitate the distribution of funds that gives you the biggest benefit. It's funny, the newer generation. So I grew up in the generation where like stuff, our life was defined by stuff.
Right.
Did you have a Mercedes? Did you have this? Did
Yeah.
you have that? Oh, you arrived when you had stuff.
Certain things. Yeah.
But for my 18-year-old daughter, she could care less about stuff. It's all about experiences.
Yeah. Which
Her
I agree with.
reality.
I agree with. Experiences over stuff. Stuff decays. Memories, they build your life. They enrich your life. That's
It,
my look. I'm
it,
with
it, your reality is yours, hers is hers, and mine is mine. But like
right.
the the starting point has to be with just a concept of what it is. What makes Archie happy? What do I
Right.
need to do for Archie to be fulfilled?
Yeah.
What will it take for me to be in this grind?
Yeah.
Going to work every day. Am I going to work for someone else or am I going to work for myself? Even if you're an entrepreneur, you're still working.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And in
And
the
a lot of times
entrepreneur,
harder, in fact.
harder, longer, and
Uh-huh.
you have, and people fail to realize entrepreneurs have far many more bosses or managers than people who have a traditional 9 to 5,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because every client that buys your good or service is to some degree a manager, right?
Right.
You have
Right.
to manage
Manage
to their
them.
expectations, right?
Right.
So, being an entrepreneur doesn't mean you
Get the
have
kickback.
extra time, right?
Yep.
Like, no, in fact, everyone that I know that's an entrepreneur, they work longer, harder, and more days of the week than I do as a traditional,
Yeah.
employee in the corporate America space. But I just think it all starts with like, what is the lifestyle? Like I wanted to be an educator, like nobody. I wanted to, and I still want to be an educator and teacher. And part of what I do is I I'm an adjunct professor at
Yeah,
Delaware
I
State
was gonna say,
University.
well,
Yeah,
Archie, what are we talking about right now? You
yeah.
teach at DSU, so there's that.
But that's a more recent
Okay,
revelation.
okay.
But when I was coming through, and I'm 52, so when I was coming through, teacher salaries, and that
Yeah.
defined notation of who's arrived and whenever you arrive with
My teacher
stuff
had not arrived.
didn't align. So I did what I needed to do. You just got to be honest with. I
Yeah.
think it all starts with honesty.
So it's good. Like you said a couple of things there that I just really want to call out, and I think is good. Just kind of putting a bow on that is that this idea of being honest with yourself about what fulfillment and happiness looks like. Otherwise, you can get in this trap of it never being enough. It's like,
Never.
"Man, if I just got this, then that would be." Then you get there, then you realize the next step. If I could just, you could go from a 50 to 500 to 5,000 to 50,000. Now, I think it's good. I absolutely think it's good to dream big. I think that part of certain communities' problems is that they don't dream or think bigger than what they see. And that's what keeps a very limited sort of scarce mentality, this idea of just, this is all I have and all I ever will have. And so you just stay in
Right,
that
right.
cycle. And that's not healthy.
No.
But to your point, is that because somebody asked me this the other day. So I do well financially, like I'm good. And so somebody said, well, wouldn't you want to make X dollars this month? And I said, no, I have everything that I want. I don't need to make. And they were like, you don't want more money? And I said, the difference between what I make right now and what you're talking about would not really change my lifestyle. It would be
Right.
like, it would be nice. Sure, I would have a couple extra dollars in my pocket, but it wouldn't change my lifestyle to such a degree that I feel like I need to be like intentionally like striving for. Now, if
That's right.
you told me between here and $1 million, that's a
Right.
different story.
Right.
That changed my lifestyle
Right.
drastically.
Right.
But this to that, it doesn't really do a whole lot. So
Yeah.
I'm happy where I am.
Yeah. So you said a couple things there. So I guess going back just a bit, and I do a fair bit of mentoring
Yeah.
for middle school and high school students and boys, and what we always say is they will be what they will become, or they will be what they see. So
Mhm.
what you just stated is accurate. Again, we're all a sum total of our life experiences. And if you've never experienced it or you've never seen it, you don't actually know how far away or how close you are to it.
Yeah.
So going back to the example you just shared, listen, there's no free lunches. So whatever it is that comes with that incremental money,
Yeah.
there's incremental work. And so does this take me away from my family another 30% for a 10%
Right.
financial impact? Like
Right.
you just
You
you
gotta
have
weigh
to
it out.
look at it all in totality, right? Like
Yeah.
it, there's no free lunches, so like no one's just going to give you another 10% without
Right.
asking for something in return. it,
Absolutely.
it just doesn't
Absolutely.
work that way, right?
Right.
um and you just have to understand what the cost is for the incremental bump.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if that cost is more than you're willing to bear, then stay away from it.
It
it
is.
it,
It
it
is.
doesn't make
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
But to your point, if like it's $1 million increase, and $1 million could change my grandchildren, like so my
Yeah.
children's lifestyle, and it comes at like a acceptable increase in work effort
Right.
performance, I
Then
do
maybe
it.
I'm with it.
What's the
Maybe I'm with
return? We're all given 24 hours and 7 days a week.
it. Mhm.
So the salary or the income that we earn,
Right.
that's a return on your investment. Your investment is your time. So like the return on my time has to make sense for me,
Absolutely.
because I my time is a finite
Come on.
amount. It's a finite
Resource. You
commodity,
can't,
right?
it cannot be replenished.
We all only get 24 hours in a day. We all only get 7 days a week, right?
Yeah.
So like my salary is the return on my investment of time.
Yeah.
My income is if I'm an entrepreneur, is the return on my investment and time that I spend with my business.
Absolutely. Y-
It just has to make sense. It's
Yeah.
no different than putting money in the stock market, right?
Yeah.
If it doesn't make sense, then why are you doing it?
Well, and see, and that's the thing, and that's when you start thinking about money in that way and start thinking about your time in that way, I think you start to see and value money in a very different way. My pastor said something that was like, people talk about money is everything, or money's the thing. And he said, okay, if I told you that you could have $1 million, but you could only live for 5 more minutes, would you want the $1 million? And they'd be like, no. So then money wasn't the most important thing to you. If you said you could have $1 million, but you would have to be sick for the rest of your life, do you want the $1 million? No. So actually, health means more to you than money. But
100%.
putting it into perspective of really understanding how you value money and where does it actually sit in your life, I think will help you. Yeah, I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah.
You have to be honest with yourself,
Yeah.
right? Every think of it as a relationship. Right? So every good relationship begins with honesty, and
Yeah.
every good
Well, I
relationship
wish there's
requires.
some people that need to understand that a little better. But anyway,
Hey,
go ahead.
that
All right,
that's
this is
not
a
what
different
I do.
podcast. That's a different
I
podcast.
I just do finance. I don't do anything with like counseling on that level. Like, but you have to think of the relationship between time, money, and lifestyle,
Yeah.
right?
Weigh it
It's
out.
a scale. You have to balance it all.
You got to balance it out. That's good. That's good. Okay, so here's my last question before my last question. This has been a really no, listen, this has been a really insightful conversation. You have really, really made me like I'm telling you right now, as soon as I get off this call, I'm getting to start jotting some stuff down. Like, where am I spending my money? Let me log into this account. Let me look at this feed. Because you know what? And I'm gonna tell you right now, this would be probably TMI, but it's whatever. Not TMI, but like telling all my little business. Um, I paid my car off. That was $528 a month that I'm no longer paying. And I went through all my subscriptions, the random nonsense, right? I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm on Amazon and I got a random subscription for like Lifetime movie channels. I don't even watch that. So I was like, that's $10 a month that I,
Right.
get rid of
Done.
that, get rid of this, get rid of that. And I went through and I saved literally like $240. So now I looked at it and I said, man, between the $240 and the $528, I'm almost like $800 richer every month. Like, you know what I mean?
So how did you
I
repurchase it?
I don't know. That's what I need to find out because I ain't seen a dime of it. Do you hear me? I said, where is that $800?
Make it work for you. Put it
Well, I gotta
put the
find it
800 to
first.
work. So find it. It's
Yes,
there. It's
it's
somewhere,
it's somewhere.
and then put it to work, right? And here's what the other half.
Yeah.
I'm not in the other half. I'm in the same half as you. Like
Yeah.
I'm good, but what I would tell you is this: put whatever excess that you find to work, and then so if it's $800, right? Spend the earning off of the 800,
Yeah.
and
And
you
leave the
still have the
800.
800. You still
Yeah.
holding your cash.
Yeah.
That's what they do. That's how they stay wealthy.
Yeah. That's going so you fell right perfectly into the last question because the last question was going to be what are some tips that we should know about how to make our money work for us that we probably don't know? Is there anything that's like tomorrow, like I'm going to say this as an example. So I've had my money in a credit union for forever, and somebody came to me and was like, "Bro, what are you doing? You need to put that in a high interest, like right." But we, you know what I mean? And no shade against credit unions, but it felt like, oh, that's the smart thing to do. They have good interest rates, like the credit union, da 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 da. And now I'm like, they're like, if you don't take that, so a small adjustment that we can do that will make our money work better for us than maybe what we're doing right now.
Yeah. So there are tools. You have one tool is a high interest savings account, right?
Okay.
And credit unions aren't
They ain't it.
generally. They're not generally. I don't
Yeah.
want to make a
Yeah.
generalized statement. They're not
Mine ain't.
generally in the high interest yield, savings
I
account.
think I get like 1 cent dividend. I'm not even playing.
Yeah, that's the thing. So
That's
there
crazy.
are. So just Google high interest yielding savings accounts.
Okay.
Or even some of them have high interest yielding checking accounts too. Oftentimes they're like internet banks.
Okay.
Don't run away from internet banks. They're fine. They have FDIC insurance and everything.
Okay.
you'll be fine. So
Well, can you tell me for real quick, what would be considered high interest yielding? What would
I think so. I just looked. I think it was like 3.5%. Three
okay,
point.
just to level set. People might
Yeah.
see it and then go like, "Oh, can I get better than this?" That's about where we
I mean,
okay.
like bankrate.com is pretty good about like sharing what the
Okay.
interest like capacities are, right? Let's call
Yeah.
them capacities. So they'll tell you what the low is, what the high is when you're borrowing money. They'll tell you what the low is, what the median is when
Okay.
you're, putting funds into an account. So like bankrate.com is a good tool.
Yeah.
Um, about around 3.5% is probably on the higher end. You
Okay.
might be able to do a little bit better, but it may require a higher balance.
Right.
So you may, and it may come with some balance restrictions. You may have to, I don't know, keep $50,000 in the account
Yeah.
for a minimum of 7 months. They may have
Yeah.
some challenges or some requirements
That
if
not
you
the
get to the
everyday
higher rate.
person can
Correct.
necessarily meet. Okay.
Correct. That's right.
Understood. Understood.
Um,
Okay. So we can go and
CDs.
look. Okay.
CDs is another good tool, right? So you have
Okay.
3 month CDs, 6 month CDs, 9 month, year. Generally speaking, the longer the term, like so, the longer you commit the money, the more you'll make.
Okay.
It's not always the case, but again, just Google who has the best 3 month CD rates,
Okay.
and you could continue to roll that money over and either pull or draw down the interest or leave
Yeah.
the interest in and use that as part of the
Now,
wave.
now I got something. This is random. Savings bonds. Listen, I just looked through some stuff the other day and I saw these that my mother had bought like years ago,
Oh,
whatever. Yeah, that had bought like years ago. And I was like, should I keep these? Should I cash them
gosh, they're done. Yeah, done.
in?
Yeah, they've matured. I mean, if listen, no disrespect, because I know you're probably like 2021, right? But like they generally have like a 10-year horizon.
Are you
Um,
serious?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like they probably matured. I would look. I mean, look into it. Right?
Wow.
But once they mature, like you're not getting. They have no value.
Yeah, these are
Like
things I didn't
no
know.
incremental value. Like they
Yeah.
have the value. Yeah,
Wow. Okay. Well then shoot. Listen, that's money sitting downstairs that's chilling.
correct.
Wow. Had no idea.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you
They
for that
probably
one. So
matured.
for
Yeah.
all of y'all, listen, all of y'all, the grandma bought you savings bonds when you was 5 months old and you are now 45, cash
Yeah.
them in.
Yeah. I mean, look at them. If
Yeah.
there's something in the like it will be something called out in the language that if they matured beyond maturity for whatever reason. But
Yeah.
chances are, if it's a U.S. Treasury savings bond, like it it matured and that was all the value that you were going to get.
Oh man, well thank you for that one. Look, now we know.
Yeah.
Um okay, listen, this has been a fantastic conversation, Archie. Thank you so much for spending this time and just being so honest and forthright and non-judgmental.
No, judgment free,
Judgment
judgment free
free
zone.
zone. Yes, I appreciate you so much for this, sir.
For sure.
So last question I ask every guest before we close out. I'm sure that you have a lot of things that you can answer for this, but I want you to pick one.
Okay.
What is the most life-changing advice that you've ever been given?
Think before you speak.
That's
Think before you speak.
that will change your life.
And I say that earnestly, and the reason why I say that is because you know every question you have isn't necessarily a question you need to present, and
Mm,
every comment that you think isn't necessarily one that you need to share. Think before you speak
yeah. Yeah.
is probably the life altering, because younger Archie probably didn't think as much as he should have before he spoke. But
That's
older
that's some
Archie picked up.
that's some advice that we could all probably do a little bit more of. And in this point, it's not even just think before you speak, it's think before you type, think before you text, think before
100%.
you post, think before
All of the above.
All
Yes.
the above,
All of the
all
above.
of the above.
Yes.
Think before you. That's
Yes.
it. Just all of the things.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much. I've appreciated this conversation. You're gonna have to come back. I know you said this is your first podcast. Man, lies.
No,
Lies.
it's,
Lies.
I tell no tale. Yeah, it's my first. But whenever you want to have me back, I'm more than
Absolutely.
happy to come back.
I think I'll have you back on like a panel. We can talk about a
Do
couple
it.
of different yes, a couple of
Do it.
different things, how money incorporates with mental health, incorporates with,
Yeah.
maybe relationships. I think that would be an amazing podcast. Lord.
100%. Like it all interconnects,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Because they say health is wealth,
Mhm.
and wealth is health,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Healthy relationship, yeah, it all interconnects.
It all interconnects.
You schedule it, and I'm there.
I already know. I trust you. Also, I'm getting ready just on a closing note, I'm getting ready give our boy Malcolm the business because you sent your bio over like when I asked you and did all the things, man, this dude. I'm still looking for that bio.
Well, Malcolm is a man of many different capacities. I'm a simple man, right? So like my bio is easy. Malcolm is a complex. He's a complex man.
You're making excuses. Listen, we ain't doing all that. I told him, I gave him all the business. I said, now why I had to write this? I had to do this for you. You didn't do
Malcolm is
none of the
my
homework
guy. I'm
assignment.
always gonna protect my Malcolm is my guy.
That's my dude too. He didn't do nothing but hype me the entire episode, and I was here for it. He said, "Is she a baddie?" I said, "Hey, I forgot all about that bio."
And, and then there's that, and he wasn't
And
telling no tales.
oh my God. All right, y'all. Thank you for tuning in this week. I hope that this conversation, per usual, has just been a blessing to you and it has really made you rethink how you think about your money, how you think about debt, how you think about yourself and the journey that you are on, and some of the options that are available to you. Like Archie said, listen, be honest with yourself. That's where it starts. Your money, which may not seem like the place to start, but it is. Be honest with yourself about what you're doing and why you're doing it so that you can really get to the bottom of how you're going to get to your goals. Again, Archie, thank you so much. Have an amazing week, everybody. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye now.